What's going on, guys? It's Jack here, and you know, we have a day until the NBA draft. I was thinking about producing a video, but I figured I'd just go live, see if I can catch any of you guys on here, and just talk about what I think may happen during tomorrow's draft. And quite frankly, usually when we're about a week out from the draft is when I start to have a better idea of what I think is going to happen, at least in the first few picks. And this year, I feel like about a week out from the draft, I started to have less of an idea of what was going to happen. I really felt like, moving into the process as we were getting a little bit closer to the draft, that there was more of a consensus among the top, you know, 4, 5 guys or so, right? I thought Ayton, Doncic, Jaren Jackson, Bamba, and Bagley were pretty much set as the top 5 guys. And as we've gotten closer to the draft, that really, based on all the reporting, we'll see, what teams have just been trying to create smoke screens and what have you, and not give away their true opinions. But that doesn't seem to be necessarily the case at all. For one, yes, Phoenix does look locked into Ayton at the first overall selection, but Sacramento could go anywhere at 2. There's really a ton of options for them, and then you look at Atlanta could go anywhere at 3. Although I do think it's going to be either Jackson or Doncic at that spot. And after that, it's a crapshoot, and I think it for that reason it's one of the more exciting drafts, just because after Ayton at 1, it sure seems like anything could happen, and part of that I think is because of the teams that are picking up there. You look at Sacramento, who's been historically pretty terrible. Atlanta usually actually has been a hallmark of, at least recently, stability. But no, we're not really sure what their new GM, Travis Slank, is going to do. And as a result of that, they're really a question mark at the top of the draft. At the 3 spot, Memphis hasn't picked this high in a number of years, but recently their draft history has been really poor. And, if you're a Memphis fan, you really got to hope they nail this pick. You get Conley back healthy, and that this player can play with Marc Gasol. Because there's so many bigs at the top of the draft that Memphis either has to pick somebody and move on from Marc Gasol, or try to find somebody who can kind of play with Gasol. I think they're in a very interesting position just for that reason alone. And then Dallas at 5, they have been really walking a fine line between rebuilding and reloading with Dirk, and they've tried to do both, and it really hasn't worked out at all. They tried bringing in Wesley Matthews, Harrison Barnes, and they made the trade for Nerlens Noel as well. And really, besides Harrison Barnes to an extent, none of those moves really have worked out for the Mavs. And last year they picked Dennis Smith, so it's pretty. I think they're moving into the rebuilding phase here. I would expect that they're going to take more of a prospect style player than somebody who's necessarily ready to contribute from day one. Other trends, though, that I do anticipate for the draft, I think there's going to be a run on one and done freshmen. I think there's a very realistic chance that, 8 of the first 10 picks are going to be one and done guys. And that just continues a trend of recent years. But this year it's really accentuated just how many of the top 10 prospects are one and done guys. But moving on from that spot, I really think the mid first round area of this draft is very intriguing, because once you get past the first 12 prospects or so, even the first 8 guys, there's really not too much of a difference between guys who you may have ranked 12 and another team may have ranked 30. There's just not too much of a difference between the prospects in that range this season, and for that reason, I think you're going to see a number of prospects go higher than we thought they would, and a number of guys go much lower than we thought they would. And for that, so some names, if I'm going to guess who might slide and who might go earlier than we think. In terms of the players who may slide in this draft, I'm hesitant to say Miles Bridges, but based on the lack of just talk about Miles Bridges pre-draft and the fact that he slid down a few spots, it wouldn't surprise me if he starts to fall a bit come draft night. He's already in mock drafts at the end of the lottery. If he falls out of the lottery, it wouldn't necessarily shock me. Guys, though, who have moved up in the draft, I think, one, you got to look at Zaire Smith just because of his athleticism, his ability to pass the ball as well. Same goes with Robert Williams. Both of those guys, because of their defense, because of their ability to pass, I think both of them are underrated passers, see the floor better than people give them credit for, and their overall athleticism is just off the charts. They could both be guys who get selected earlier than necessarily we thought. A prospect who's very intriguing just in terms of where he might go is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Just because, he didn't take any pre-draft visits to any teams. He didn't work out for anyone. So he's definitely an enigma. A guy who I really like, but definitely an enigma. Just in terms of where he may end up. And really, very exciting time in terms of the NBA draft. I was hoping that maybe we get a few more people in here, but doesn't seem to be happening. So I might try again tomorrow before the draft. Anyone who listens to this, as always, leave a comment, and I'll be sure to answer what questions you may have. But guys, that's it for me. I'll catch you guys after the draft with more of a in-depth analysis. Peace.